Liberal Senator Jacinta Price, who was demoted from her role as Shadow Minister for Indigenous Australians earlier this year, recently made comments about the Indian Australian community, which, unsurprisingly, didn't go down well. According to her website, where you can view all her media transcripts, on 3rd of September, when interviewed by the ABC and asked about the voting intentions of migrants, she said, "Well, as we've seen, you yourself mentioned that there is a concern with the Indian community, and only because there's been large numbers, and we can see that reflected in the way that the community votes for Labor at the same time." Later, the host asked, "So do you think that there are particular groups that are voting in high numbers for Labor, like the Indian community?" To which the senator responded, "Well, I don't think it's just the Indian community. I think it is certainly the public service that do. Sort of any group that is understanding that they can rely on Labor's high spending in terms of welfare in this country." So that's the controversy. Basically, the senator linked the Indian community to voting for Labor and connected any group that votes for Labor to relying on high spending in terms of welfare. This, of course, ignited a political firestorm. The media coverage was swift. The ABC reported, "Liberal Party faces Indian community's ire over Price migration claims. The federal opposition is in damage control." The Australia Today reported, "Liberal Senator Price disgustingly targets Indian Australians, asked to apologise after widespread backlash." SBS wrote, "Liberals distance themselves from Price's Indian migrant remark as backlash grows." And again from Australia Today, "Indian Australians are valued and welcome, says Dr Andrew Charlton, slamming Senator Price's outrageous slur." Of course, this is a predictable spectacle, and it highlights an interesting rule of Australian political debate, one that Senator Price has now learnt the hard way. You are not allowed to say or even imply anything remotely critical about migrants in Australia, because if you do, the media and your political opponents will happily watch you burn at the stake. Senator Price did, however, eventually issue a statement. A short time after making the initial comments and seeing the media explode, she clarified, "Australia maintains a long-standing and bipartisan non-discriminatory migration policy. Suggestions otherwise are a mistake." In classic ABC style, they reported, "Liberal Senator admits Labor migration vote-stacking claims a mistake." Despite this, unsurprisingly, this was not enough for the ravenous, blood-sucking media. A statement was not enough. They wanted an apology. Regarding the Prime Minister, the ABC reported, "PM says Nampa Price should apologise for Indian remarks because they caused harm to Indian Australians." Regarding Liberal MP Alex Hawke, The Guardian reported, "Hawke urges Nampa Price to say sorry for real damage her migration comments caused Indian Australians." And of course, the ABC rubbed salt in the wound, reporting, "Northern Territory's Indian community calls for apology from Jacinta Price over hurtful migration comments." The one thing I'd like to point out is that you can't force somebody to apologise. Well, you can, but it wouldn't be a sincere apology. It undermines the entire purpose of an apology. It's like a parent who forces their child to apologise. Yeah, you get an apology, but it's a fake one caused by duress. Obviously, all these calls for apologies are just political theatre. Liberal MP Julian Leeser went one step further with SBS reporting, "Liberal MP Julian Leeser apologises for Jacinta Price's comments on Indian migration." I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but again, you can't apologise on someone's behalf. Either the person who causes the offence apologises voluntarily, or the apology doesn't count. This is just empty rhetoric. Specifically, Mr. Leeser said, "My colleague Jacinta Price said something this week that I want to apologise unreservedly for. Let me say very clearly, the contribution of Indian Australians to this country is fantastic. The Indian community is fantastic. And you know what? India, like Australia, is a democracy. There are Indians that vote Labor. There are Indians that vote Liberal. There are Indians that vote Greens. I don't care how you vote. I care about the contribution you make to this country, and I know it is a fantastic contribution, and I want you to keep making it. I'd just like to point out that Mr. Leeser's apology is not only an insincere and hollow performance, as he is trying to speak for somebody else who may or may not hold the same views, his apology is not even factually accurate. Although I understand his sentiment, Indians don't vote Labor, Indians don't vote Liberal, Indians don't vote Greens, Australians do. Only Australian citizens can vote in elections, and India does not allow dual citizenship. Either a person living in Australia is Indian and cannot vote, or they're an Australian citizen of Indian heritage. Perhaps I'm being picky, but if you're going to apologise for other people, facts matter. The ABC, of course, ran a piece on their religion and ethics website titled "Indian Migrants Are Not a Problem, but a Source of Strength for Australia's Identity and Prosperity." I'm sorry, but that's disingenuous. It's a sweeping generalisation saying that all Indian migrants are the one homogenous group. As with all people, there are good Indian people, there are bad Indian people, there are Indian people who commit crimes, and there are Indian people who go on to win Nobel Prizes. To say that all Indian migrants are not a problem is not grounded in reality, and at the very least is a broad oversimplification. Just to show you that I'm not making stuff up, on the Australian Bureau of Statistics' most recent Prisoners in Australia report 2024, you can download all their data. This is Table 7, Prisoners, Selected Country of Birth by Most Serious Offence Charge. As you can see, Indian-born people are the sixth most represented non-Australian group. This is not me saying that all Indian people are bad, of course not, but to say that they're all saints is clearly ignoring reality. Back when SBS reported on such things, they highlighted these facts. For example, in 2018 they reported Indians among most likely migrant offenders in Victoria. Around the same time, they also published articles like Indian man hatched $20,000 murder plot from inside jail. This is not being racist, this is just speaking in facts. Unfortunately, SBS have since stopped such commentary. Either way, it's clear the media are now presenting a more sanitised view of migration. But back to my overarching question, should Senator Jacinta Price apologise to Indian people? Well, that's not up to me. That's not up to other politicians or the media. That's up to Senator Price. To say that she must apologise is futile, but to apologise on her behalf, well, that's even more ridiculous.